Coming up live here today on the Raiders Report, I'm going to get into the major Christian Wilkins news. Maybe some of you saw it, maybe some of you didn't if you don't follow me on Instagram at MitchellRenz365. I'm also going to get into some roster rumors from Tashawn Reed around some of the players that are on the roster bubble. Then what I wanted to do is, because I don't know if you all know this, there's not a lot of big-time news going on right now around the Raiders, not named Christian Wilkins, and I'm sitting up here going, I believe that the Raiders could get better. We have the money to do it. So what I decided to do today is rank my top NFL free agents that I would want Pete Carroll and John Spytek to go out and get. I have those players ranked from 10 all the way down to 1. And then I figured, you know what? Let's have a little bit of fun today with the duck race. And I'm going to tell you this. I've done a lot of duck races in my time. I think today could end up being one of the most fun duck races we have ever done in the history of the Raiders Report. And to the people that are watching right now, if you've never gotten in a duck race before, today is the day to do it. I'll tell you what we got going on here on that duck race in just a little bit. But again, appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in today to the Raiders Report. I go live every single Tuesday, Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. I also go live every single Monday and Friday for a Madden simulation, and I'm still licking my wounds from that Madden sim yesterday. Unbelievable heartbreaker. Even when I got home, my wife Alex goes, "So how'd the game go?" I'm like, judging by the way you're looking at me right now, I know exactly. You know exactly how the game goes. So we got 250 people here down in the comments section. And if you are new to the Raiders Report, I like to ask a lot of questions because I like to have a two-way conversation. Quite frankly, if I were to sit up here and talk to myself as often as what I do, I'm going to look like that homeless guy on the side of the road where you're like, I hope that guy's okay. So out of these three players right here, Tashawn Reed recently did an article and he spoke about these three guys. Let's hypothetically say you're sitting down in a room with Spytek, Pete Carroll. They look at you. What?
So that would be dope.
Yeah. I actually, one of our good buddies has an opportunity to do that very soon. He's going to get to sit down with Spytek, Pete Carroll, and Mark Davis.
Dream blunt rotation.
Say that again?
Dream blunt rotation.
Oh, I actually don't know if that is. I don't. Pete Carroll, John Spytek, Mark Davis all sit down having dinner. One of my good buddies is going to be doing that soon. You know who you are. Bottom line is this. You get one player to pick. Trey Taylor, Tommy Eichenberg, Dylan Laube. Out of those three players, who you keeping? Type 37 for Taylor, 44 for Eichenberg, 23 for Laube. Before I give my answer here on this, Chugs, if you could keep only one player, you're going to keep the free safety, the linebacker, or the running back. Who are you going and why?
Right now, with how the roster is constructed, I think there's only one answer, and for me, it's not close.
Okay.
For me, with how the roster is right now, if they were not to add anybody else onto this team, it's 37, and it's not close.
Okay.
You added a bunch of linebackers. You added Jermaine Pratt, Devin White, Landon Roberts.
Okay.
You added one safety, really. And realistically, in Jeremy Chin.
Okay.
Besides that, the safety room's very thin.
Okay.
So if I'm looking at who's going to help the Raiders this season, Tommy Eichenberg, does he have a chance to start? I don't think so. I don't think they would have signed Jermaine Pratt as quick as they did if they felt as confident as some people are in Tommy Eichenberg.
Okay.
Dylan Laube, I don't see a way that he touches the field if you have Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah.
Unless it's on special teams.
Sure.
So that leaves Trey Taylor, who I think gives you the most in special teams.
Okay.
And also can be a sneaky guy to rotate in with an Paul Amau, with a Jeremy Chin, with a couple other guys that you have in that safety room. So for me, it's 37 and it's not close.
All right, I respect that answer a lot. I see some people down below. Brett Carter's going to agree with you, go 37. I saw my man Venthrak Mount Raidermore is going to type 44. 23 from Ed Robbins. I'll say this. The only player on here that I don't think that you can keep is Dylan Laube at number 23, and I say that because you got Ashton Jeanty, and then I would say the only other thing that I think Laube is really going to be able to help you with is special teams, and quite frankly, if we're talking about it from a receiving standpoint, I just think Tommy Mellott is a better option. I also think Trey Tucker would be a better option overall. So then it goes to special teams. I do think both Eichenberg and Taylor can help you on special teams, and ultimately, you kind of broke it down from a position standpoint. I don't even know if, to me, I don't think that Trey Taylor makes the team because he's a safety. I don't think Eichenberg makes the team because he's a linebacker. I don't think Laube makes the team because he's a running back. It's whoever is the best special teams player, in my personal opinion, out of these three, is who ends up making the roster. But I will say, if I had to be a betting man right now, I would say there's a better chance that Eichenberg makes the roster over Trey Taylor. But for anybody that knows this show, I am a fan of Taylor, and if I also had to keep one player, I personally would also keep Trey Taylor, but that's because I'm more confident probably than maybe the majority of people out there and somebody like an Amari Gaynor. I also like Cody Lindenberg probably a little bit more than some people else out there, and I agree with you of, yes, the Raiders also signed Lonnie Johnson. But Lonnie Johnson, I don't really know what he is exactly. To me, the Jim Thorpe Award winner, I would like to see what we got in Trey Taylor a little bit more. Another segment that we're going to be doing here on today's show to the 350 crazy mother effers that decided to pull up today. If the Raiders can only sign one NFL free agent, you only get one. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, we got like $36 million to play around with, and you can only bring in one player. Which, I get it. You could technically bring in more than just one, but for just the simplicity of the game, you can only bring in one guy. Who should it be? And I'm going to give some bonus points away here to anybody that can tell me the why and in terms of why you would go out and bring that guy in. I don't want to give my number one player away because you're going to find that out here in a little bit, probably like 30, 45, maybe to an hour. But I'm going to give shout-outs right now and see what you guys have to say. I think JJ Madrid, I think that's clowny. He put a clown emoji, and I think that's a knee emoji.
Yeah, clowny.
Clowny. To JJ Madrid, that bonus points to you, man, for being creative. Love it. I see Isaiah Simmons from Luda. What up, man? Dave's going to go with Simmons.
Justin Simmons.
What did I say?
Isaiah.
Yeah. Isaiah Simmons is not available. Justin Simmons from Luda, that's on me. Zalesbo is going to go with Clowney. Billy Davis says Jalen Ramsey. I'll tell you this, Billy. I did a show bright and early this morning. It is not out yet on YouTube. It will go out early tomorrow, and it's going to be me giving some information out on Jalen Ramsey. So please make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on. I'm talking about that. Bayou Raider, what up, my man? He's going to go with Mike Hilton. I'm guessing the cornerback from the Bengals, unless you're going with T.Y. Hilton, which I'm not going to lie. When I first looked down at Hilton, obviously I thought Mike Hilton, but then there was that little part of me where I'm like, T.Y. Hilton is a name that still pops in my mind. Obviously not the person that I want the Raiders to go out and get, but it's just when I hear the name Hilton for NFL standards, I do think of T.Y. Hilton here a little bit. Day says Andrew Walter, Luis Rodriguez, Foster Moreau. Get out of here, dude. You control me on Madden days. Not today, Luis. Not today, Luis. Chad, it's going to go Ray Finkel. I don't even know if that's a real person. Nathan Peterman. Probably not. Benjamin Perez, slot cornerback is the most important. Mike Hilton.
Moreau.
Australian for beer and also for Madden. What do you think? One free agent for the Raiders. Now, again, you've already seen the show.
Yeah.
So without giving the show away, which position for you personally are you going to go out and target?
Oh.
Are you looking defensive line to help replace Wilkins? If you didn't see my Christian Wilkins replacement video, please go check it out from this morning, especially with the news that happened today around Wilkins.
I would say a secondary piece.
Okay.
Either safety or cornerback, maybe somebody who does a little bit of both.
You sound like my old dating game. I'm just looking for a secondary piece.
Yeah.
Somebody that can do a little bit of both.
I think you can't go wrong with anybody in the secondary, in my opinion.
I don't have a disagreement with that. I will say this. The Raiders' defense, to me, is becoming an issue, and I'm getting more and more concerned about it because, in my mind, for this Raiders defense to be successful, you're going to have to dominate in the front. You got to dominate in the trenches. And, yes, you can have players that surprise you. Robert Spillane was a great surprise. Another guy like a Casey Hayward a few years ago was a great surprise. We've had players pop up that have been able to show us, Meek Robertson, great surprise. Jacorian Bennett last season, a great surprise. These type of guys do end up popping up. My only concern is I am worried that we are going to throw them into the fire if our defensive line can't dominate, and I am concerned if we don't have the healthiest version of Christian Wilkins, is our defensive line going to be able to dominate? I don't necessarily know. Let's talk about today's super chat deals, and they are as follow. Every $5 super chat that we get here on today's show, you're going to be entered in for our fantasy football raffle. If you are trying to compete in our June Bang race, which I will discuss here in just a moment what that leaderboard is potentially looking like. Whoever's trying to get in the June Bang race, remember, if you win the Bang race in June, you're automatically entered into our fantasy football league. We are also going to do that fantasy football raffle on June 30th, which, funny enough, is next Monday. Woo! So you better be here. And I wanted to do something today that I've never done before, and I wanted to see how many people were down for something spicy on a Tuesday. So I'm doing a $50 duck race today. So here are the rules. You Venmo me at Mitchell Renz 365, $50. If you do that, you're in for the duck race. Whoever comes in first place, you get the money. Nothing has changed. It's the exact same way that we do it. Here's where it's a little bit different. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that 10 people get in the duck race. If you come in 10th place, not only are you going to get a butthole pick, I'm going to give you 10 tickets into our Raiders Report Fantasy Football Raffle. If you come in 9th, you get 9 tickets. 8. The worst place to come in, technically in this game, 2nd place. Technically, the worst thing that you could do in this duck race is come in 2nd place. So maybe 2nd place gets the butthole pick. You only get 2 tickets. So what I'm trying to encourage people to do is this. If we get 20 people in and you come in last place, you're going to get 20 tickets into the fantasy football raffle. Whoever comes in first place gets a lot of money. That's what we're doing today. So if you want to get in, I know it's a big one, but sometimes you got to get a little bit wild even on a Tuesday. So if you're trying to get down on a Tuesday, $50 Venmo, Mitchell Renz 365, and I can't wait to give away some money and some raffle tickets here on today's show.
Along with that, I don't know if I've seen...
Rebel, I wish I could throw in some tacos.
I did see Vinthrak in the chat.
Yep.
Just letting you know, Vinthrak, where you stand with maybe 6 days left in this race.
So we have today's live, Thursday's live, Friday live, Monday live. We have 4 live days left. So again, I mean, Vinthrak banged more than anybody. He also put in an awesome message in our Raidermore group chat yesterday, which he was like, hey, man, I'm holding it down for Mount Raidermore, and you absolutely positively are. I salute you for doing that. Bayou Raiders been on an absolute heater. Patrick Roche has been a crazy mother effer. Cobbin, Richard Black, and I also want to give another special shout-out to Mark Prosser for being a huge, huge one yesterday in our Raiders vs. Cowboys live stream. So one of the topics of discussion here has been around Jalen Ramsey. And I'm not going to talk about Ramsey too much today, obviously, unless I get a question, which we don't have any super chats yet. If you want to get your questions, comments on the show, you got to use hashtag Raiders or super chat. It's one of the ways that Tuesday shows really got to go. And I'll be honest, I need y'all's help to get Tuesday shows going. If you are tuning in for the big news around Christian Wilkins, I'm going to get to that here in just a little bit when I break down our first segment on today's episode. But how many just win babies on the Raiders trading for Jalen Ramsey? 0, no chance it's going to happen. 1, think about it, about 25% chance of happening. 2, 50-50. 3, 75% chance. 4, 100% believe it, baby. My answer on this will be out tomorrow morning here on the Raiders Report. So again, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on. Speaking of them from yesterday, Mark Prosser says 2. James going to go with the 2. Luda's going to go with the 1. Raider Nation 80 says 3. Ed Robbins, Bridger Rivera, IA Raiders going to go with the 1. William Van Roy 2. I'll tell you what, a lot of optimism here. He's seen, Taron Wallace, 0, no chance. Juan Hernandez, 1. Rebel Montana, 0.69. You're probably the right one there. Raider Nation for Life's going to go with the 1. So as I see, a lot of 1s down below. Venthrak getting his vote in as well. I don't see a lot of optimism, but then there are some fans out there that are saying, yeah, man, it's absolutely going to happen. I mean, to me, if I see a 3, that means you really think that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like to me, if you're putting in a 3 or above, you're locking it in. 75% chance, that's high. Like, if I actually think if a source reached out to Adam Schefter right now and said there's a 75% chance that team trades for Jalen Ramsey, he tweets about it in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Immediately. Also, the reports Ramsey wants to go to the best coast.
Does he want to go to the East? No, I'm not going to do that to you. I know I'm an East Coast guy, though. West Coast, best coast. It sounds like that's where he wants to go.
East Coast, least coast.
You can't do it like that. You can't do it like that. No, I'll tell you this. I have a way more bigger appreciation for the West Coast. If you were to ask me which part of the U.S. would I rather live in, East Coast or West Coast, I would choose the West Coast personally.
Best coast.
Though,
but have you seen?
I got a lot more family on the East.
Have you seen Galveston?
No, I have not.
I mean, pretty nice.
Based on what I've heard, I disagree. Based on the pictures I've seen of the Galveston Beach, I'll tell you, if you like Galveston Beach, I'm just basing this off of pictures. I think you would love Atlantic City Beach. I think that's quite frankly where you need to go. You would thrive.
Oh.
You would thrive. All right, what up, Michael Rain? Appreciate you tuning in. Rebel Montana, what is up? What is up? Since we don't have any questions or comments yet on today's show, it's all good. Which, by the way, I got a few people that are getting in the duck race here, which I love to see it. Luis Rod. That's I'm keeping a close eye on you for throwing those elbows at me earlier in today's show. Luis Rod is in. Matt Sitter is in.
Robert Jansen, Southeast is the beast.
Only Robert Jansen would come up with that. Southeast is the beast. Robert, never change, dude. Richard, you, sir, are in. Fabian Moreno, you in. The Night Devil, you in. And then also, Sean Irish, you in. Though I should ask Fabian. Okay. Fabian, do you want to get in? This is for the duck race, correct? That's what I wrote down. I hope that was the right. I hope that's what you were looking for, was to get in. Sean Irish, you, sir, are in. And then Charles G., you, sir, are also in.
Jonathan, if you want to be put to the test, try out the West.
That's unbelievable. $50 Venmo right now for a chance to win $175.
If you like driving a Lexus, you should check out Texas.
I'm trying to think of another one. I can't think of anything. What's another car?
If you want to
Ford, Chevy.
If you want to see my main Vania, you should check out Pennsylvania.
Wow. If you drive an Impala, then come holla. I don't know. That's the best I got for you. That's the best I got for you. Getting anxious, and there isn't any news on Miller and Mayer yet. Yeah, Bridget, you're not wrong. But again, I'm not going to read too much into there not being any news right now. I think it's because it's just that time of the year where there's just not a lot of stuff going on. So just keep that in mind. But again, y'all, if you want to get in for the duck race, we're doing a mega duck race today. It's a $50 Venmo to get in. And if you also want an opportunity to get into our fantasy football raffle, this is going to be a day to do it. Richard Kelly, I got you in, my man. Also, the Richard that got in earlier today, just so all of y'all know, it's my dad. So if you see my dad win, it's my dad.
Richie.
I was just going to keep him in as Richard before, but I also didn't want Richard Kelly, excuse me.
Richie, did we figure out the suit situation?
Oh, yeah. Don't worry, I returned the suit. Touchy subject. Touchy subject. Well, I think on that note, let's get into the mailbag. Actually, wait a minute here. We have a super chat coming in from Derek Constantino. Looks like a Celtic fan, which Celtics, what do you think of the Drew Holiday trade?
Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons.
What are your takes on it? Because I heard a few of the guys out there talking about it. I personally have no idea.
I don't get why Portland would trade. So, like, Drew Holiday is a guy who's, like, in his 30s.
Yeah.
Anthony Simons is, like, 23, 22.
Okay. Based on that and that alone, that tells me the Celtics are trying to plan for the future.
I feel like I'm like one of those guys who I'm half in, half out on the NBA all the time. The only thing I really know about Anthony Simons, a decent player, but also him and Brandon Ingram, I think there was like a story like they have the same baby mama and they played against each other and the baby mama was there. And one of them hit the game winner over the other one. It was literally like an episode of Real Housewives on an NBA court.
I mean, that's crazy. People just live totally different lives. Hot take, our worst pick, not player, is Besh. And the second, I hate it. I hope I'm wrong, but he's not in the league in 4 years.
Hate, double hate.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I hate this take because I think it's a bad one. And again, like I appreciate that you shared it with me. And sometimes I actually like super chats that are more of you giving a take, right? And we'll be able to revisit this in some recent years. But to me, I look at what Jack Besh was able to do at TCU this past season. I also look at what he was able to do, the past year at the Senior Bowl or Northwest Shrine game. I think it was the Senior Bowl, MVP. Great blocker, good football player. I would be shocked if he's not in the league in 4 years. To me, if he's out of the league in 4 years, it's either an injury or he did something very knuckle-headed.
I would say this. In the second round, you're looking for starting caliber players.
Yeah.
And with Besh, maybe the ceiling's not as high as other guys that were on the board.
Like a Thornton.
But his floor is right here.
Yeah.
Like, more than a lot of these like prospects that were in the draft, I feel like at least on a base level what you're going to get out of Jack Besh.
I'll also say this in terms of Besh and why I want people to just be on board with it a little bit more. If you were the Raiders, you had a big opportunity to upgrade your offensive line. The Raiders decided to go with Ashton Genty. So I think what the Raiders decided to do is they wanted a receiver that was one of the best blocking wide receivers in the draft. So because he was one of the best blocking receivers in the draft, they also were able to get him. Like the pick of Besh, yes, you can look at it just from a Besh standpoint, but I do think adding a player like Besh was more to do with because they drafted Ashton Genty, so it filled a need at wide receiver, and it ended up getting somebody that I think is going to be able to help go out there and block because that's something that this Raiders team wanted. We didn't want a receiver that wasn't willing to block cough, Devontae Adams.
Richie also wanted to let you know in the chat, it's not a touchy subject for him.
No?
He said not a touchy subject at all.
Perfect. That makes me even less confident on it. Nah, Dad, I'm just kidding. You know I love you, but we're going to...
also, Derek loving the trade for Anthony Simons. He's 26.
Brad Stevens fleeced Portland. Simmons is 26. Wow. Also, the Night Devil! Bang! Here's to add, I'm guessing 2 ducks. What's up, nation? So you already have 2 ducks in the duck race.
So I think he's saying, he was like, yeah, I guess I have 2 ducks.
Yeah, you have 2 ducks in the duck race, and now he adds a bang to extend his June bang lead up to 5 bangs. I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy shit in my time. This is one of the best runs I've seen in the month of June. This is one of the best runs I've seen in the month of June, which actually...
And also, I see Derek Constantino and a couple people going back and forth in the chat. They're saying, but... Besh is already getting beat out by Thornton.
Yeah.
Isn't that a good thing?
I was just going to say, like, I don't look at that as bad for Jack Besh. I look at that as Dante Thornton Jr. is showing up and showing out.
I look at that as maybe the Raiders got one of the steals of the draft.
Correct. I mean, to me, we always knew what Dante Thornton Jr. could be, right? But I think as a Raiders fan, and you can't tell me because I know this. When I sat up here on draft night and I was like, we got a 6'5", 4'3" runner, and the concern was his route tree. It sounds like he's running a lot more of a complete route tree, and it sounds like he's much more of a complete football player than what Tennessee was kind of allowing him to do. But as a Raiders fan, we're always, I think, a little bit cautious because we always hear the what he can be. And I think Raiders fans are always like, this guy can be this, and it gets sold to us like, oh, this guy could be this. And then a lot of times doesn't turn out to be like that. I think right now what you're seeing out of Thornton is he got an opportunity and he's taking the most of that opportunity. So I'm excited to see what Dante Thornton Jr. is, because again, I don't look at Jack Bech losing that battle. I look at it as Trey Tucker's taking a step forward in year 3, and Dante Thornton Jr. really might be another 4th-round steal, though we've been able to find some 4th-round gems in the past.
All right, we got the latest news and rumors, a Wilkins update coming up right now, but we're at almost 400 people watching, 146 likes. Can we get to 150? Can we get to 150 likes? Can we get 4 more people hit that thumbs up icon before we start today's show?
I mean, the problem is, though, Derek, I see you said if Bech would have been available in the 5th round, he wasn't going to make it to the 3rd. You know what I mean? Like, he was going to be no matter what a 2nd-round pick. So, like, that's like you saying if I don't know.
You know, if we could have gotten Ginty in the 2nd,
yeah,
that would have been great.
Right? Like, sure, if we could have got Bech in the 5th, that would have been a lot better, but he was not making it to the 3rd. I mean, there were reports out there that one of the reasons why the Lions traded up to get that receiver from Arkansas
Tesla
is because they had their eyes also on Bech, because they were looking for physical blocking running back or blocking wide receivers. And I think when you see some of these NFL teams out there, Lions, Philadelphia, the Ravens, they're predicated on trying to be physical.
The Rams had a lot of interest in him as well.
The Rams as well were another team that was thrown out there. So I think when you see the Raiders, yes, maybe they took Bech a little bit earlier, but I also do think if the Raiders would have taken Darian Porter at 58 and you take Jack Bech at 68, I actually think people would look at that and be like, oh, that was a better value, it was a better pick, when there is really no difference at all. I hear you. I'll tell you this, Derek, I appreciate you sharing your opinion, and I hope that you're okay with me sharing mine. I think that's what makes the Raiders Report what it is. To the 420 people that are watching right now, it's a good amount of numbers right there. If you haven't, please click that like button. We would definitely appreciate it. Coming up right now, we're going to get into, I'll be transparent, some bad news around Christian Wilkins, and then some Raiders roster rumors that you need to see. Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, the latest news on Christian Wilkins, and I'm going to be honest, it's not good news. Also, I got some juicy Raiders roster rumors around some players that are currently on the bubble from a Raiders insider. I'm going to be breaking that all down today here on the Raiders Report. If you don't know, my name is Mitchell Renz, and when I saw this news come out today, I knew what is going on behind the scenes, and I know kind of what's going on behind the scenes with Christian Wilkins, but this photo here is going to raise some eyebrows, and it's going to raise some concern, because it should raise some concern. So the picture that you see over here is Christian Wilkins. This is a photo on his Instagram, and he's in a walking boot, same exact ankle that he had surgery on back on October 5th, 2024 to repair that Jones fracture, and he was at Kyle Van Noy's Charity Golf Challenge. Picture was taken on July 23rd. The bad news is this. Christian Wilkins is still in a walking boot nearly 9 months after his surgery. If you didn't see the video that I put out earlier in this week, or actually last Friday, that was titled Breaking News, Christian Wilkins needs another surgery, I encourage you to go check out that video. And in fact, I'm going to put this video down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. That way you can just get a little bit more information on what exactly is going on around Wilkins. And I understand, I've had a lot of Raiders fans go, Mitch, well, why aren't the Raiders talking about it? Why aren't the Raiders beat reporters reporting on it? Watch this video, and you're going to know that answer, plain and simple. Let's go to the other part here of today's show, which is some roster rumors from Tashawn Reed. And The Athletic recently released a 53-man roster projection article that was titled, What Did We Learn in OTAs and Minicamp? Today, I'm going to rank the biggest storylines, the biggest rumors from that article, and then ultimately react to it and give you my 2 cents on it, because to me at this time of the offseason, don't get me wrong, I love being able to talk about Max Crosby, Ashton Genty, Geno Smith, Christian Wilkins, the big-name players on the Raiders. But at this time of the year, May, June, and July, I don't give a shit what anybody says. To me personally, what I find more interesting is the roster bubble stuff, because it's really the only time that we really talk about it in the entire offseason. So first here, and again, these are ranked based on how interesting I find them. The first juicy Raiders rumor from Tashawn Reed is Dylan Laube is going to get cut. Now, I'm not sitting up here saying that Tashawn is reporting that Laube's getting cut. I'm simply just saying, just like I make segments all the time, a lot of beat reporters also make segments out there, and when you get somebody's opinion that is at practice, I am going to weigh into my 2 cents as well, because I know that he sees different things that I'm hearing, and I want to be able to react to it. Here's what Deshaun had to say on the Raiders running back backfield. Genty is the clear-cut lead back, but the Raiders want to avoid running him into the ground. Mostert will be the primary third down back and will help spare Genty on early downs alongside McCormick. White will compete with Dylan Laube, a skilled returner, to make the roster. So right now, as it stands, the Raiders running back room, Ashton Genty, Raheem Mostert, Sincere McCormick. I'm going to be honest with you. I think all three of those running backs, based on what I am hearing right now, are a lock to make this team, barring injury or honestly, barring the Raiders going out and signing another running back. I obviously do not think that's going to happen. But for what Deshaun said is he's predicting Dylan Laube gets cut. I'm going to give this one to Just Win Babies, and I'm going to say right now at this current moment that I'm filming this video on June 24th, it's a coin flip of whether or not Laube makes the team. I do agree that it comes down to Zamir White and it comes down to Laube. And I think that those two guys are going to compete for the final spot. The reason why I'm going to sit up here and call it a coin flip is because Zeus to me is the better running back. Dylan Laube to me is the better special teams player. Depending on what the Raiders are looking for out of that running back spot is really going to illustrate what they decide to do. If it was up to me, I would keep Laube because I need more special teams value because I have confidence in Ashton Genty. Though, if the Raiders want to keep the better running back because they're confident in other special teams players, I understand them keeping Zeus over Mr. Laube. Let's go to number 4 here in our Juicy Raiders rumors from Deshaun Reed. Thayer Munford could start. And where there is smoke, there is fire. And if you would have told me I would have said that statement regarding Thayer Munford, I would have thought it was in terms of a cut. It was in terms of him getting traded. But there's a lot of smoke right now around Munford potentially being a starter for the Silver and Black this upcoming season. And Reed had this to say. There's an ongoing position battle at left guard between Parham, Munford, and Meredith that's worth keeping an eye on. Munford played offensive tackle his first 3 years with the Raiders, but has experience at guard in college. Rookies Grant and Rodgers have a long way to go to get into the rotation. So based on what Reed's saying there, doesn't really sound like Caleb Rodgers and Charles Grant have a chance to play this season. And I'll be honest, I've also heard those similar things. I think I've made that pretty clear on this show. But that doesn't mean that Charles Grant and Caleb Rodgers aren't showing promise for the long haul. They are showing promise for the long haul. It's just they are rookies, and there's a lot more to learn when you are a rookie compared to some of these guys that have been in the league for multiple seasons. Now, what I find interesting in terms of Munford being a starter, I am going to give this one only one just win, baby, and I'm going to say that there's probably a 15% chance, a 10% chance of this happening. And I say that because I do anticipate Dylan Parham to be the starting left guard. Based on everything I'm hearing right now, it is Colton Miller, Dylan Parham, JPJ, Alex Kappa, DJ Glaze. That's the Raiders starting offensive line. I will say Munford does look good as a backup offensive guard option, and it kind of sounds like he might be the top backup offensive guard option, even over somebody like Jordan Meredith, based on something that I've heard just in the last week or two, right when he was getting done with minicamp. The other thing about Meredith is they kind of like him as a potential backup center option offensive guard. To me, the only way that Munford ends up starting or has a shot to start this season is if Parham does end up getting traded, but I don't think that the Raiders want to trade Parham. If a team picked up the phone and gave him a call, maybe a little bit of a different answer, but the one just win, baby, for Munford starting is because I just think it's going to end up being Parham. Let's go to the next juicy rumor here on today's show, and it's around Trey Taylor, and according to Reed, he has Taylor getting cut. When I did my 53-man roster projection, it really came down to a handful of players, and I bet you if I were to count out each player where I put them, I bet you Trey Taylor was probably number 55 or 54 for me, and I also did not have him in my latest 53-man roster projection. Here's what Reed had to say. Chin will spend a lot of time lined up at nickelback working in the box. When he lined up in those areas in OTAs, the Raiders often brought Johnson onto the field as a third safety. Unless the Raiders sign an upgrade at nickelback, expect that to continue into training camp. Harper was solid last season and may push Johnson for his role. So I know that Trey Taylor's name was not mentioned in Reed's statement there, but I think what you can gather from Reed's statement is it really does sound like they got a 4-man rotation in safety. And it's Jeremy Chin, Isaiah Pola-Mao, Lonnie Johnson Jr., who they signed this offseason. It's also very important to mention that Johnson has a lot of really good ties with Marcus Robinson, Joe Woods. They were together last offseason with the New Orleans Saints. Now, at free safety, I like Taylor. And I think if they keep 5 safeties, he's got an opportunity to make this squad. For Thomas Harper, though, he's another player that I did not anticipate Harper would show out the way that he has this offseason. He played well last year as well. Sneaky, sneaky guy that could make a big role for this team. In terms of Trey Taylor getting cut, I'm going to go a little bit out on a limb here, and I am going to give this one 3 just win babies. And I'm going to say that it's pretty likely right now at this time, middle of June, if you told me to project what that Raiders roster looks like in August, I'm going to give this one 3 just win babies in terms of him getting cut. And I say that because of how impressive Thomas Harper has been. Because, Trey Taylor was not a part of this regime that was drafted. And when you look at Chris Smith, he's a guy that I don't even think that you can consider bringing to the squad. If Taylor wants to make this team, he's got to be able to show that he can cover as a safety, and he's got to be able to show that he can be a little bit more reliable just in terms of just being a special teams player. So here's going to be a question that I need y'all to answer, and I know it's a tough one because I love Trey Taylor. I really do. Jim Thorpe Award winner. I think that he's good enough to be on all 32 NFL teams. I'm not afraid to say it. But also at the exact same time, I don't know exactly what the Raiders' plan is with them, and I don't know if he knows either. So keep or cut, let me know down below. My answer coming up here after this YouTube ad break. The reason why I'm going to sit up here and cut, it's not because of a Trey Taylor thing. It's because I think the way that this Raiders team is honestly building this roster. They value extra linebackers on special teams. Not saying they don't value safety depth as well, but if the Raiders are sitting up here and saying that Lonnie Johnson Jr. and Thomas Harper are their top 2 options behind Jeremy Chin and behind Isaiah Pola-Mao, I think it also might worry some people that were a little bit higher on Trey Taylor because I am shocked that our safety room looks the way that it does right now. And if you would have told me our safety room would look the way that it did and Trey Taylor wasn't good enough to make the squad, that also would concern me quite a bit. We got some more juicy rumors coming up here in just a moment, but 4th of July, it's right around the corner, and I'm somebody that's always trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, though Suavemente might be killing 1 bird with 2 stones. The 4th of July shirts, they're out, and we got chatsports.com/Raiders USA. Mitch, what the hell do you mean 2 birds, 1 stone with this shirt? I'm somebody where I always like to have something to wear for events like I say St. Patty's Day, and I'll say 4th of July. I just don't have a lot of green stuff. I also don't have a lot of red, white, and blue shirts. I really, truly don't. But I also always like to be able to rock the nation, and if I'm going to a pool, I think a great shirt to be able to wear is the team that you rock, right? Like, you go to the pool with your Raiders shirt on, 4th of July, it's a win-win. If you're like, dude, I'm not going to wear anything red, white, and blue, I'll just wear something Raiders-related, I'll be honest, if you go to chatsports.com/Raiders USA, you can also get a bunch of other Raiders gear as well. That's like Salute to Service, where they have camouflage hats, they got some different types of hoodies, and there's a bunch of different stuff. But if you are like, dude, I don't know what to wear for the 4th of July, and I want to wear something Raiders-related, it's literally me, chatsports.com/Raiders USA. I got that link for you guys. Again, down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. Let's go to the second juiciest rumor from this Deshaun Reed article. It's the Las Vegas Raiders are going to keep Zach Carter, and he has them keeping 7 defensive tackles. So I tried to combine 2 into 1 simply because I thought this one was that big and that deserving of being number 1. Here's what Reed had to say on his logic behind keeping the 7 defensive tackles and Carter. The Raiders flip between 4 and 5-man fronts throughout OTAs, but we'll go with a 5-man front as their base given the precarious state of their nickelback position. Wilkins missed all of OTAs as he continues to recover from the Jones fracture he suffered last October, and his health will be a major storyline going into training camp. Carter has replaced Wilkins during his absence. If Wilkins misses time in training camp, it'll be interesting to see if rookies Hemingway and Pegues can create some competition. Now, I think the number one thing that some people are going to see there is, all right, well, when Wilkins has been out, that means that Zach Carter has been getting an opportunity to get out there on the field. I'll be real. I have heard of Carter getting some work with some of the first-team options, and I get why he has. But let me be very transparent. I really think that the only way that Carter ends up making this squad, as if the Raiders are legitimately concerned with Christian Wilkins. And if you're not somewhat concerned with going on with Wilkins, either A, you're not subscribed to the Raiders Report, B, you've been living underneath a rock, and C, you don't have Instagram and you don't have any social media because, again, Christian Wilkins, there's a photo of him right now still in a walking boot. In terms of Zach Carter, though, making this team, I am going to give this one 2 just win babies, and I'm going to say people are talking. According to Reed and according to everyone that I've been talking to, Wilkins, Fotu, and Butler are the top 3 clear defensive tackles on this Las Vegas Raiders team. It's just what's been reported. It's what I've been saying as well. It's why I had Fotu making my roster, and it's why I kind of, it's why I disagreed with Vinny a few days ago saying that he didn't have Fotu making his 53-man. To me, though, if the Raiders end up keeping Carter, that's bad news for Wilkins' health. And if the Raiders end up keeping 7 defensive tackles, that's bad news for Carter's health. Like, they're going to keep Hemingway. They're going to keep Pegues. Jonnu Laulu is a player that this team does like, and he's going to make this roster. Like, I don't think they're going to keep Carter over Laulu. That's not what's going to happen in my book. So to me, you're sitting up here going, well, if we're going to keep these 3 guys, we're going to keep our 2 rookies that we ended up drafting. You're going to keep Laulu. That's 6 defensive tackles. For a team to keep 7 DTs when you are already spending the amount of money that the Raiders have at defensive tackle and at defensive end, it means that one of those guys you're unsure about. And I think right now it's easy to point the finger and go, the Raiders are clearly unsure with Christian Wilkins, and I think Deshaun Reed knows that. Let's go to the number 1 juiciest rumor, though, from that article, and it's UDFA Ja Joyner making the roster. So when I looked at this Deshaun Reed 53-man breakdown, 12 defensive linemen, 7 defensive tackles, 5 edge rushers. That tells me that there's some unsurety, I don't even know if that's a word, uncertainty is probably the better word, around the Raiders' defensive line. So here's what Reed had to say on the defensive ends. Wilson and Snowden are jockeying to be the first defensive end off the bench. It's a pivotal year for Wilson as the Raiders decide on his 5th-year option after the season. Barring a major breakout, they'll almost certainly decline it. Joyner is a bendy, explosive pass rusher who can make some noise once the pads come on in training camp. Now, I'll say this. You could also look at that and sit up here and go, well, that's interesting because Wilson and Snowden are battling for that defensive 3 spot. I'll be real. If Tyree Wilson cannot beat out Charles Snowden with everything going on with Snowden this offseason, because, again, his court case is right at the start of when the veterans have to report to training camp on July 22nd, that's going to be very concerning for Wilson. In terms of Ja Joyner making the 53-man roster, I'll give this one just win, baby, and I'll say that it's a small shred of truth. But let's not get it twisted. I am rooting my you-know-what off for Joyner to make this squad because he was my number 1 graded UDFA signing by the Raiders. If you don't believe me, go watch my UDFA grades. Go watch my UDFA signings video. He was somebody that we had slotted down here at Chat Sports that could be a 5th to 6th round pick coming out of Minnesota. I do expect the Raiders to keep 4 to 5 defensive ends, so it kind of aligns with what the Raiders are doing. But to me, I don't know if the Raiders would end up keeping a guy like Ja Joyner and cutting somebody like a Trey Taylor, cutting somebody maybe like a Tommy Eichenberg, cutting somebody, that you could get a little bit more help on from the secondary because I think there's a little bit more question marks in the secondary. To me, though, I do think that right now Ja Joyner is a player to keep in mind, and I don't know exactly how he's going to fit into that rotation, but if you do think that there's some upside there, and I almost wonder if the upside is a little bit more as a stand-up outside linebacker where you kind of look for a potential Caleb Von Chasen replacement. You kind of look for somebody that can play almost like that Devin White role, and I don't know what the role Devin White's going to play. I'm simply just saying what role I would put White in, where you allow him to be an athlete, let him be a stand-up linebacker, pin his ears back, and get north and south. Another player that I've brought up multiple times on the show is Azeez Ojulari, and I'm not saying Ja Joyner is Azeez Ojulari, but that role of an outside linebacker in a Patrick Graham system, when you have 5 guys on the defensive line and you let that other guy stand up and kind of roam around, I do think with the skill set that Joyner has, it fits because the simplest way that I can describe the type of player Joyner is to maybe a Raiders fan that, I always get asked, what's an NFL comp? Imagine the way that you viewed Malcolm Kuntz his first year into the NFL, not like 3rd-round pick coming out of Buffalo. It was after that first year, it was a player that you saw had talent, can't really do anything in the run game, but can get it going if he's in the right system. To me, that's what Ja Joyner is, and if Tashawn's talking about him keeping the team, definitely a player we got to keep a little bit of a closer eye on during training camp. All right, y'all, we got a Tuna's Top 5. Y'all are watching the Raiders Report. We got 533 people here in the building. And if you want to learn how you can win over $200, it's a $50 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. $50 Venmo to get in. To get it in. Good luck to you.
What TV shows are you and Alex watching right now?
To be honest with you, the top TV show that I'm watching right now, and it's not even me watching it. Alex is a professional at watching junk TV to get other things done. So, like, typically I'll come home from work, I'll take Chuck out, and I'll start getting dinner ready. I'm the one that usually makes dinner. Alex handles a lot of, I'll call it, behind-the-scenes stuff like the bills, emails, that kind of stuff. I don't like to do that.
Edie Amazing says All-American.
All-American.
There's a couple people in this office that have watched that.
The show that right now Alex is watching, and I'll be real, the first show that pops into my mind, it's that Mormon Wives show. I'm not really watching it, and I'm like just kind of listening to it in the background while I'm doing shit. It's one of the most dysfunctional shows I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't know how anybody values. I shouldn't say that. That's probably not a good thing to say. I don't know how anybody takes what they say serious. How about that? Like, they hate each other. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how
they
hate each other.
A lot of people in the Chat Sports office, which, it's a lot of guys who, with their girlfriends, significant others. But I almost feel like a couple of the guys in the office like Love Island more than their significant others.
Oh, dude, no. I have never, haven't seen this season, but I've been hearing a lot of you guys talk about it. It sounds like Alex would like it. Alex likes drama.
I am not watching Love Island, but I almost feel like I am because I have 3 people next to me that talk about it constantly.
Yeah.
And they say it's because my wife, my girlfriend, whatever, they're watching
Sanchez.
it.
That's the right answer.
I would say, Rick Kelly, that's literally, I was just about to say that. Me and my wife just started Animal Kingdom on Netflix. Pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Is that not hosted, but
not anything to do with actual animals.
Oh, okay, that's not what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it's a show about this like crime family.
Okay.
And it's like a drama type action show. It's good.
Interesting.
A lot of boobies.
Interesting.
A lot of nudity. It's good though. It's actually me and my wife just started it. We're in season 1. I'm catching up because I didn't catch last season, so I'm finishing up on the last season of Traitors. Mostly because I want to watch season 4 with Donna Kelsey.
Yeah, I'll probably watch that one as well. Am I the only one that's really disappointed in The Last of Us? I love the first season of The Last of Us.
I haven't seen it.
I'm going to be honest with you. Alex asked me if I even wanted to watch season 3. I thought season 2 sucked. I fell asleep probably in 3 out of the episodes.
Yeah.
That would have been the show I would have answered, but I thought season 2 sucked.
All-American and Landman from Bridget. A couple guys in the office have told me to start Landman. Apparently that's good too. It's on I think it's on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
Me and Danny are pumped for the new season of The Bear comes out. We really like that TV show. I mean, if we're just talking about TV shows that you can watch over and over again, I already know Mitch's favorite TV show of all time. At least sitcom.
How I Met Your Mother? Barney Stinson is my favorite character that's ever been created of all time.
Oh, Tires is hilarious.
Tires is good. I'm trying to get Alex into Tires. I'm not gonna lie. It's been though. I want Alex to watch Breaking Bad. She just won't. She will not do it. And I think Breaking Bad. She won't do it.
It's like one of the best TV shows I've ever seen.
She's like, it's boring. And I'm not gonna totally disagree. It took me a little while to get into Breaking Bad. But I thought the last few seasons, especially like the last season of Breaking Bad, is like some of the best TV shows
Breaking Bad is
time.
amazing.
I love the show White Collar. That was another one that I really liked a lot. Suits was a good one.
Chase.
But right now, Alex is all about these Mormon wives. And
Chase.
Dude, it's a train wreck.
You watched Landman, right? Yeah, Chase is the one who told me to watch Landman. It's good.
Landman?
We asked everybody in the chat. We've had like 7 Landmans.
Okay. Interesting. Zalesbo, that was filmed here. I know. I actually, Zalesbo, I was in New Mexico, and I had the opportunity, which I don't even know if opportunity is the right word. I went to the motel that's in Breaking Bad. And I don't think opportunity is the right word. It's a motel.
I'm also I love reality shows. I'm not much on the Love Island and stuff like that. I'm like traditional. I like watching Big Brother and Survivor. The new season of Big Brother is about to come out too, so me and Danny will be glued to the TV. Three times a week.
Reality competition shows. Like I like when people compete, do something.
Honestly, one of my dreams is to be in Big Brother or Survivor. Like that would be a dream come true for me.
All right, well, how about this?
The only problem is at this point in my career, I don't know if I could take off an entire summer.
I mean,
or at least Survivor, I know is like.
I think the only way
Survivor is like a month and a half.
The only way that we would be able to do it is if we did watch parties for Survivor to watch you.
Oh, bro, that would be.
I would do it.
That would be so lit.
Dude, I'll tell you this right now.
I could just wear a Chat Sports T-shirt the whole entire time.
I don't think they would let you. You just have to shave Chat Sports into your chest hair. That's more realistic.
Get a fake Chat Sports tattoo.
There you go. Now you're thinking, or a real one.
Not a tattoo guy. I would get a fake one though.
Yeah, we'll get you a henna.
If James said the only way that I could go on a reality TV show is if I got a fake Chat Sports tattoo, I would do it.
You're like, where's my forehead?
Not on my face. It'd have to be like on my
right here.
Bro, he shows me episode 1 and the tattoo's right here and it's just my chest is blurred.
I think if you were gonna do it, if you're gonna get a Chat Sports tattoo, there's only one place you can get it. Lower back. There's no other place you can get it.
Oh, dude,
it's perfect.
Shameless is a great TV show too. Have you seen Shameless?
Unfortunately not.
Oh, that's a really good one.
I really don't watch a lot of TV. I really only see what Alex is watching.
Dylan, I don't think I could do that. He said Chugs should go on Naked and Afraid. I don't know about that.
I'll tell you this. The only way I would do a show like that, and this might sound really weird in the beginning, is if I did it with a buddy. Where if I would have to do a show like Naked and Afraid with somebody that I knew.
I don't know if that's better or worse.
I don't know. I think I'm not really I would not be embarrassed to get naked in front of most of my really, really good friends. So I think the naked element is that one part. But survival, I am obsessed with survival shows. I would love to test my skills.
Survivor, great.
See, it's very different though. I would want to be able to see, can I live off the land? Dude, can I do that?
You should check out the Hulu show I was telling you about, Extracted. It's basically there's teams of 3, and then there's 10 teams of 3, and then every team of 3, one person goes out into the wild and they have to survive, and the other 2 are fighting, doing competitions to send goods and materials out there. So it'll be a competition between all the other, pairs of 2.
Oh, is that the one where it's you could technically be parents and the kids out there?
Yes.
And she's like, help me, I want to come back. And they're like, no.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Great TV show.
Okay. I mean, to me, I know that I might not look like somebody that can live off the land, and I probably honestly couldn't, but I would like to be able to try. I feel like I'm from the middle of nowhere.
Who do you think would
Richie's done some – Richie's put me through some stuff.
Do you think that at any point, as we get bigger, we could do a Chat Sports Big Brother or a Chat Sports Survivor?
I think it'd be to me. I think the easiest thing to do would be we put all 30 of the Chat Sports guys in this room. Last person in here wins something, and we just film the whole thing. That would be the easiest thing to do.
I immediately fart.
I mean, if there's a chance to get on, I'll tell you this. If we're 30 people in this room, never mind. I was going to say, we do have a woman that works here. I say, that's where you go naked and afraid. You just take off all your clothes. You're like, all right, we're doing this. Somebody. No.
I did see somebody ask 50 about the duck race today. We're doing a mega duck race, $50 Venmo to get in. But it's a special duck race. So right now we have 6 people in, right?
No, we got a few more. Right now we have 9 people in. So Mark Call, you are in. So if my math is mathing correctly, right now it's a $50 Venmo. You would go home with $225. Also, since we have 9 people in, whoever comes in 9th place, you get 9 tickets into the Raiders Report Fantasy Football Raffle. 8, 8, 7, 7. First place, you get your 1 plus the money. technically the worst place to finish today is second.
I couldn't be on Hell's Kitchen because I'm not a professional chef. I could maybe be on like a Guy's Grocery Games.
I was actually just going to say, the number one show that I'm watching right now, it's Guy's Grocery Games, and there's actually some dude from ESPN that's like competing like in this show because it's
it's the tournament challenge one.
Tournament challenge, and I can't think of the two chefs. It's Ted, I think it's Jed Tila, who I absolutely would love to meet. It's his team, and then it is what is her name? She's got brown hair. She's like one of the best chefs in the world.
Is it?
It's gonna drive me nuts.
It starts with an A, right?
Yeah.
Ali Lacasso or Lafascio?
Dude, yes. It's that person. Yeah, it's exactly who you're talking about. It's a crazy last name. I can't think of it. It's not. There's another woman. It's like Fornicelli or something like that. It's
Alex
not her.
Fornicelli, not her.
It's not her. It's the other one. It's honestly, the name that's coming to my mind is Emilio Bonifacio, which I know is a baseball player from many years ago, but I can't think of her name. Doesn't matter. Have you guys heard of The Last Straw on Netflix? I have not. I am not. Reggie, I appreciate you asking that, man.
Is it Alex Cornicelli?
No. That's what I just said it wasn't.
Oh, no.
No, I'll think of it. If you look up like top judges on Guys Grocery Games. All right, let me figure this out. Her name is Antonia Lafaso.
I was close.
I knew I couldn't think of who it was. Antonia Lafaso. Actually, Alex and I, like 2 years ago, we had beers and we had dinner with Artie Sequin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's really good friends with a chef that is in downtown Dallas. And one day we were just out for drinks, and I was like, dude, that's Artie. And she was super sweet.
There's a what's her face? I can't remember.
Gotcha. All good. All right, y'all. We got 420 people here in the building. If you haven't already,
we also have some super chats.
Make sure you click that like button, and let's get through some of these super chats that we got. What up, Michael? Wilkins' injury sucks. Can Patrick Graham make our defense great, though? Yes, the Wilkins injury sucks, but I think what we're going to find out is we're going to learn a lot about the type of player and the type of man I think that Christian Wilkins is. And I say that because Wilkins wants to play through the injury. He needs a second surgery. Whether you want to believe that statement or not, that's totally up to you. And I think the walking boot picture today is just another example of something is clearly not right with Christian Wilkins. The injury does suck. And I think the problem is going to be the contract, because you can't really get out of the contract. And I don't know a team that's going to trade for him. You can't really cut him because you're going to eat just a shit ton of money. And if you don't restructure his contract, you're essentially going to have to pay Christian Wilkins $37 million next year, and he has only played potentially 5 games for you. Or Wilkins tries to play through this season, and I don't think you're going to see the best version of him, and then you're going to pay that player $37 million, or even worse, you might pay somebody $37 million that tries to play through this season, and then they get hurt, and we might be in this situation again next season. Do I think Patrick Graham can make our defense great? Of course I do. And I think anybody that's even questioning this, Michael, and I'm not trying to come off as a dick here, but I don't know how anybody can question whether or not Patrick Graham can make this defense great. He's done it every time he's given the opportunity. Last season was a shit year. There were so many injuries. Quarterback play sucked. You look at what Patrick Graham was able to do with that back half of that 2023, and I just think in general, PG has finally given this Raiders defense an identity, and that is a huge, huge pat on his back. But, like, Patrick Graham, Antonio Pierce. And I know one was a head coach, and I know one is still in the NFL. I just think, like, Patrick Graham is one of the better defensive minds. That's why he was getting, opportunities to be a potential head coach. I think, honestly, PG is one of the best DCs in the NFL. What up, Derek? Chuck Norris can kill 2 stones with 1 bird.
He sent this in, and during your cut, I was kind of looking over at the chat. There was a solid 5 minutes during your cut where people were just doing Chuck Norris jokes.
I'll tell you what, there was a few times, I think we did it during Thursday Night Football a few times. It was like, basically, if you can make me laugh doing a Chuck Norris joke, I'll take a drink for it. I'm not going to drink today. I'll let you know that ahead of time, but Chuck Norris can kill 2 stones with 1 bird. I'm a sucker for a good Chuck Norris joke. What up, Mount Raider Moore Ventrack? My new girlfriend was supposed to meet me at the gym, but she never showed up. I guess we're not going to work out. I'll tell you what. I hope this is a joke. I hope this is a joke, Ventrack. Imagine if he just wanted to tell us that, and we're all sitting up here laughing at him. Though, I think the laughing emoji down below. That's a good dad joke, Ventrack. It's a good dad joke. Speaking of dads, I got 2 more dads getting in this giant mega duck race today. Richard Engel, you're in, and then Husker Raider is also in. So that means, as it stands right now, it is a $50 Venmo, and you would go home with $275 if you come in first place. If you come in last place, you don't get any money. You don't get I guess we could do butthole. Though I feel like second place should get the butthole pick today.
Butthole pick.
I was just going to wonder. That doesn't make any sense. Well, we said something about a fart. How many beers for you to fart like that? But I don't even think it's possible. Honestly, I don't even know where I was going with it. Sometimes it's going to happen when you're just shooting the shit. So let's get into the next segment here on today's show. We're going to talk about free agent rankings. And essentially, I always sit up here and I go, a lot of times the way that I do this show is like, A, what I want Raiders fans to know, or like me, if I was a Raiders fan, would I want to know that? If I say yes to that question, then I'll make a video on it. I think another thing that I always like to do in the offseason is if I believe that the Raiders can get better. And if I'm sitting there at home going, I honestly believe the Raiders could get better at multiple different positions. Because I feel that way, well, let's talk about some of those players that the Raiders could go out and get. And I've talked about different free agent rankings from time to time, but I haven't done a top 10 in a very long time. So the video that you're about to see coming up here on today's show is me ranking my top 10 free agent targets for the Silver and Black, and I have them ranked from 10 all the way down to 1. Stuttgarten, are we going to sign a safety or a cornerback before training camp? I hope so. I hope we make a move before training camp. I'm not going to lie to you. And you're going to see some of these names that I got here on today's show. And just a little bit, reminder again, Mitchell Renz, 365, $50 Venmo. You'd go home with $275 for those of you that have been asking. You ready to get into these free agent rankings?
I'm ready.
Chugs is ready to get it going. As soon as we get done with this next segment, it's going to be your final call to get in the Mega Duck Race. We're going to run that bad boy, and somebody's going to go home with some serious cha-ching here on today's show. Ventrack, yes, it's a joke. I'm glad. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, Ventrack, you're a real one, and I never wanted to upset you. But it was a good joke, no doubt about it. Ready? Y'all ready? All right, let's get into this bad boy right now. Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, I am going to be ranking the top 10 free agent targets to sign before training camp. For those that do not know, the Raiders training camp this offseason, rookies got to report July 17th, and veterans report July 22nd. At the time that I am making this video, Las Vegas has $36.2 million in salary cap space, which is the 5th most in the NFL. Now, some of you might be sitting there going, Mitch, well, I don't know if the Raiders are going to go out and they're going to add a player. I don't know if the Raiders are going to go out and add a player either. But I can honestly look at every single person that watches this video in the middle of June, and I can say I honestly would go out and I would target multiple different players because I believe that this team can get better. And if you think that this team can get better, then like the video because you're going to like this video. I also know what Pete Carroll had to say about adding a player before training camp, and if Pete Carroll is saying things like this, I think you're crazy to just shut the door and say that the Raiders aren't going to make a move. So here's what Pete had to say. You're either competing or you're not. We ain't letting up now. There's no time to turn away from having a chance to get a little bit better, so we'll be on it. That's what Pete Carroll had to say on adding a player before training camp. And I'm going to make you this promise. If the Raiders sign any of the players that I talk about today, I will be going live. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on because we're going to turn this thing into a shit show if any of these players sign. Now, these rankings are going to go from 10, and I'm going to go all the way down to 1. 1 being the number 1 player I want the Raiders to go out and get. Coming in here at number 10, it's defensive tackle Jonathan Bullard. And when you look at these rankings here, it is a mixture based on need. It is a mixture based on price tag, and it is a mixture based on how much I think that they would fit with this team overall. You can also sprinkle in some coaching connections as well. Bullard has played in 34 games and started in 31 the past 2 seasons. Back-to-back solid seasons with the Minnesota Vikings. He also has that coaching connection with Pete Carroll, who he played under in 2020. To me, I look at this move not being so much as like, we need to add Bullard, but I do think that he's a better option than Lecky Fotu. I wouldn't say that he's a better option than Adam Butler, but if you are legitimately concerned about the injury of Christian Wilkins, and I'm telling you this right now, I am somebody who is legitimately concerned about the injury to Christian Wilkins. I do think that Jonathan Bullard, because of his coaching connection, because it's not going to cost you a lot of money, and because he's been able to prove to you that he has been able to stay healthy over the past 2 seasons, is just somebody to keep in mind that you could add at a very cheap price tag, which is why he ended up making this top 10 list. Let's go to number 9 here, and we're going to list Jordan Whitehead as a safety defensive back, because I think for the Raiders, you got to look at some of these secondary players as just secondary players, where I don't know if it makes as much sense to list certain guys as a free safety, as a strong safety, because it's been looked at, it's been reported that Jeremy Chinn's been getting a lot of work at the box. He's not a nickel, but he's been getting a lot of work at that nickel third safety spot, because that's what Patrick Graham likes to do. For a guy like Whitehead, he's 28 years old, with 101 games started in his career, won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady and John Spytek, and anytime there's a coaching connection, I'm going to put those players into this equation. And he's played mainly free safety, but he also does give you at least a little bit of versatility in the box, in the slot, which he played last season. And for Las Vegas, I believe that free safety is the biggest need for this football team, and considering the fact that he's coming off a year where he had 79 tackles, 3 PBUs, and comes from that John Spytek tree, I do think that Whitehead could be a player that's not going to cost you a ton of money, but could give you some of that reliability on the back end, because right now, the back end of this defense is scaring the hell out of me, especially if we don't have 100% healthy Christian Wilkins, because if we're not able to generate pressure with 4, this defense is going to struggle. I'm telling you that right now. Let's go to number 8 here, and it's going to be the only wide receiver on this list. And yes, I am saying that I would sign Keenan Allen over Jordan Whitehead and over Jonathan Bullard, but you at least got to hear my reasoning behind it. The only way you're going to go out and get Keenan Allen is if you're not confident in Dante Thornton Jr., you're not confident in Trey Tucker, and you're not confident in Jack Besh. I'll be very clear. Everything that I've heard so far around the Raiders, they are extremely confident in all 3 of those players. They like Brock Bowers. They expect big things out of Michael Mayer, and they also really projecting Jacoby Myers to have a good season. The only reason why I'm putting Keenan Allen on this list is simply because if the Raiders get to training camp, or if the Raiders are like, you know what, I need another option for Geno Smith, the only way they're bringing in Keenan Allen is if glass breaks in case of emergency, then you go out and you get Allen. Why? He's worked with the Raiders wide receiver coach Chris Beatty from 2021 to 2024 with the Chargers, and he also followed him to Chicago. He started at least 10 games in every year since 2017, and he was a really reliable option for Caleb Williams last season. Don't get me wrong. I want to believe in the hype of Trey Tucker this offseason. I want to believe in the hype of Jack Besh and Dante Thornton of what they can be. But if we're not 100% confident in our defense, then I really think that we need to assure that we have one of the best offenses humanly possible. And I get it. Keenan Allen grew up a Raiders fan. He's been a Chargers' entire career. But I don't think that you can disagree with the fact that Allen would make our offense better. We'd have a lot more depth. It might push another guy out a little bit. But to me, Keenan Allen is more of a, if we absolutely need to do it to make sure Geno Smith and this offense can click, well, then I'm okay with the idea of it. Let's go to number 7 here. It's going to be cornerback Rasul Douglas, and I'm going to throw him on this list because, again, long, lanky, outside corner, and quite frankly, I think Pete Carroll is almost the perfect coach for somebody like Douglas that's 29, 30 years old. They're kind of in this point in their career where, you know, they want to show that, hey, I was a Pro Bowler a few years ago, and I am still a starting caliber corner. I also know that he played with Eric Stokes from 2021 to 2023, so there's some familiarity there at least, and that's when Douglas was playing the best version of his football. He's got the size. He's a physical dude, which is something that I know Carroll looks for, and again, long, lanky, athletic guy. He's coming off probably one of the worst years of his career with a 59.2 overall PFF grade, but ultimately, the reason why the Raiders would go out and I think and get a guy like Douglas, and you can see a lot of games played underneath his belt, it's because there is some unfamiliarity with a Jacorian Bennett, with a Darian Porter, with an Eric Stokes. And if you're concerned that you got a young cornerback room, I don't think it's the worst idea ever to bring somebody in who's been a Pro Bowl in the past few seasons, somebody who's 30 years old, and somebody who is regarded as being just a pro's pro, because that's what Douglas is. Douglas was cut from multiple NFL teams, the Raiders being one of those teams back in 2021, ended up making the Green Bay Packers and ended up becoming a Pro Bowler on that team. To me, at this point in the offseason, I want somebody that's coachable, and I want somebody that's shown you that they can do it. And right now, if Rasul Douglas was signed, he should be walking into this team going, hey, you guys cut me once before. Remember what happened? I'm going to become a Pro Bowler this season. And I like somebody that's got a chip on their shoulder, and I think we'd get Rasul Douglas with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Let's go to number 6 here, and it's going to be cornerback Stephon Gilmore. He's probably the oldest player on this list. I'm not going to lie to y'all. And in the last 3 seasons, 48 games played, 48 games started. He's played 180 games in his career, and I do think that Gilmore probably would be the best corner on this team. That's just me being a betting man. I'm not saying that I think Darian Porter's got higher upside. I'm not saying that I think Jacorian Bennett's got higher upside. But I'm saying right now, if I'm in a game, it's one-on-one, I wouldn't mind Stephon Gilmore out there being my cornerback. He played with Tom Brady in New England from 2017 to 2019, so there is at least a little bit of a connection there, and I get it. Brady's not a coach, and he's not in the front office. He is one of the part owners, and he does have some say of what this team does. You've seen the reports on him not wanting Sam Darnold. He did allow a 94.1 passer rating last season, which was the worst of his career, but I do sit back and I go, can Stephon Gilmore help out the Raiders? I think yes. I also would look at what he's done the past 4 seasons, where he was with Carolina in 2021, still played okay. Then brand new home in Indiana, played well. Brand new home in Dallas, played well. Brand new home in Minnesota. We're talking about a player that has shown you that he can show up, and I get it. Father Time is undefeated. But I do also think that sometimes you just got to look at players that are just different human beings, and Stephon Gilmore at one point was the best player on defense in the NFL, 2016 NFL Player of the Year, long time ago. But when you have guys that are difference makers, and I hope that I don't offend people comparing Stephon Gilmore to Charles Woodson, but I do think that could Gilmore potentially be in that next phase of his career where you put him back there at safety. They did it with Patrick Peterson. We've seen that. And those are the type of players that when you're a difference maker, and Gilmore has been a difference maker his entire career, can you put him at corner? Can you also put him at safety? Because of that versatility is why I'm putting a 34-year-old Stephon Gilmore in my top 6. Before I get into my top 5, though, 4th of July, it's right around the corner. And my dad is a scary dude to be around 4th of July. My guy is a pyromaniac. You could ask him, how many fingers does he have? The answer is not going to be 10. What I would like to be able to get him, though, is a Raiders shirt. And maybe you're just like me where you're like, you know what? I would love to be able to wear something Raiders-related on 4th of July because I don't have many red, white, or blue T-shirts. I really, truly do not. Now, I got some red, white, and blue bathing trunks, which I think actually would go perfectly here with my Raiders football shirt for the great 4th of July. So go to chatsports.com/RaidersUSA. I'm also somebody where when I think of what I do on 4th of July, I drink a lot of beers. I chillax by the pool, and I eat a ton of awesome food. When I do all of those things, I try to wear a shirt that I'm not worried if it gets dirty a little bit. And I think a red, white, and blue Raider shirt is an easy shirt that I can wear every single 4th of July and not sweat about it. Chatsports.com/RaidersUSA. And if you have any extra tips for my dad so he doesn't blow his hands off, please let him down in the comments. Let's go to number 5 here on the list. And it's going to be safety defensive back Quandre Diggs. And I have Diggs up here higher than some of these other players, not because I think Diggs is better than Gilmore, not because I think Diggs is better than Rasul Douglas. I think it's because of the price tag. I think Diggs is going to be much cheaper than those 2 players that I just mentioned. Maybe Diggs and Douglas are probably a little bit closer in terms of price tag, but safety is a bigger need than corner, so therefore Diggs is up here. 32 years old, 8 games played last season, 145 games played in his career. 5 years, though, of Pete Carroll. And the best version of Diggs was with Pete Carroll. And I get it. Those years are a little bit behind him, but a 73.2 overall PFF grade last season, was solid in the run game, was solid in coverage. And if the Raiders right now are implementing this 3-safety look, which they have been under Patrick Graham for a long time, I like Jeremy Chin playing up near the box, playing this linebacker safety role. I don't love Isaiah Paul-Mal playing free safety, but if you're telling me right now, Our third safety and our fourth safety, which by all accounts is what's being reported, is Lonnie Johnson Jr. and Thomas Harper. That does concern me. So I would feel a lot better about this Raiders secondary if it was Quandre Diggs, Isaiah Pola-Mao, and Jeremy Chin out there as your three safeties instead of Isaiah Pola-Mao, Lonnie Johnson Jr., and Jeremy Chin. And I think a lot of people would agree with that statement. Let's go to number 4 here. I'm going to go nickel corner Mike Hilton. And nickel is one of these positions that I'm a little bit confused of what the Raiders' necessarily plan is, and maybe they just want to go with extra safeties. 31 years old, but he still can play at a high level. 4 straight years of a 70-plus PFF grade. Also has been teammates the past few seasons with Jermaine Pratt, who the Raiders just signed and now is the best linebacker on this team. 23 starts the past 2 seasons, and look at those numbers the past 2 years. 157 tackles, 13 PBUs, 3 INTs, 24 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. This is a player who's not afraid to get his nose dirty, not afraid to lay a tackle, and he's not afraid to do exactly what the job is being asked. And I think sometimes when you're a nickel corner, you're kind of looked at as being an undersized player. And Hilton is a little bit more of these undersized guys at 5'9", 185 pounds, but he also kind of has like that Amik Robertson dog mentality. And I know Amik's not a member of this team anymore, but I think every Raider fan resonates with that statement right there because in the nickel, I want a dog. And I think when you have that dog mentality that's got a coaching connection that also has, like a need, you add all those together. I think Mike Hilton is a player that's also not going to break the bank. He's up there in age, but it would be a good role model for some of these younger players on our team. Let's go to number 3 here on my free agent targets for the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to throw in Jadeveon Clowney at defensive end. This Raiders regime has shown me that they are interested in tweeners, and what do I call tweeners? Defensive end, defensive tackles. 15 sacks the past 2 seasons, and he can play defensive end, and he can play defensive tackle. He can also line up as an outside stand-up linebacker, which Rob Leonard has done a great jobs with. Played for Pete Carroll in 2019, 650 snaps, had a PFF grade of 87.3 in that year, and because the Raiders are concerned about the Christian Wilkins injury, I don't know if there's a defensive tackle out there that you're going to be able to add to this team and go, you know what, this guy helps me replace Wilkins. It's not going to happen. In fact, I did a Christian Wilkins replacement video earlier in the week. Please go check it out. To me, what I would try to do is make the defensive line the best as humanly possible. And the player that makes the Raiders defensive line the best humanly possible that you can add on the open market, it's Jadeveon Clowney. Like, to me, I think it makes a lot more sense to put Clowney in at defensive end, at defensive tackle, and almost use him and Tyree Wilson as this kind of rotation. That, to me, makes a lot more sense instead of the Raiders putting out a Zach Carter, instead of the Raiders putting out a maybe a Jonnu Laulu. Yes, Clowney's going to cost some money, but I also think that Clowney has got to be looking at himself in the mirror here at 32 years old in his career, and he's got to be going, man, imagine what is my next step here. I would probably want to have a career year to try to get to that next step. I had a career year with Pete in 2019, and man, this guy, what they just did with Caleb Von Chasen from Carolina, I would love to be able to show him what I can do. Because I think Clowney with Rob Leonard and the Raiders could have one of the best seasons of his career, and I do truly mean that. Before I get into my top 2 targets here on the open market for the Raiders, here are just some honorable mentions. I'll still put Kaiser White in here at linebacker, and I only put that more as of like, this team is really, really out on Amari Gaynor. I don't think that they are. I like Amari Gaynor a lot. But if they're unconfident with their linebacker room, maybe they go Kaiser. If they're looking for some extra depth at corner, Shaquille Griffin came in for a visit. Asante Samuel Jr. is probably one of the top outside corners out there. He just doesn't really fit with what Pete Carroll looks for. And then Quentin Jefferson and Austin Johnson, 2 other defensive tackles that have ties to Pete and this regime. Also Patrick Graham, that I think could be mentioned if Christian Wilkins is in fact out. Let's go to number 2 here on the list. It's going to be Julian Blackmon, defensive back safety, and played last season for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, he's going to be 27 years old this season, 62 games started over the past 5 seasons, and I say this often on this show, but it's one of my favorite things that I look for in a player, and I think in real life, you want to find somebody that's coachable. You want to find somebody that shows improvement. 7 interceptions the last 2 seasons with 174 tackles. That PFF coverage grade of 72.6 in 2023 and a 73.5 in 2024. Julian Blackmon has gotten better every single season that he's been in the NFL. Now, if you're a coaching staff that sits back there and goes, you know what? I have a lot of confidence in my ability to coach up defensive backs. I have a lot of confidence in my defensive coaching staff in general to coach up DBs. I don't know how you don't look at what Julian Blackmon has done at 26 years old and say, you know what? That's a guy that I would love to be able to go out there, and that's a guy I would love to be able to get. If you're the Raiders and you are really trying to plan for the next 3 to 4 years, I would offer Julian Blackmon a 3-year contract, and I would try to tie him with this regime, Spytek, Adam Butler, Max Crosby, Pete Carroll. I would try to tie him in because then you're getting him at 27, 28, 29. Those are really good years to have a safety. We kind of just saw, a little bit with Trevon Merrick, and I get it. Merrick a little bit of a different age, but still, my point is, Julian Blackmon, long-term, I think is number 1 on this list. However, if we're talking about this year and this year only, the number 1 player that the Raiders could go out and get, I'm going to say is safety Justin Simmons. And the other reason why I'm putting Simmons above Blackmon is I'm not saying that Blackmon can't turn into the safety that Simmons is. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am just saying I think if the Raiders go out and get somebody, it's somebody that they believe can help them this year because that's what they need help with. They need a lot of help in that secondary this year. He has started at least 12 games every year since 2017. A lot of games played there. Games played, 134. Games started, 124. First DB coach ever, Joe Woods, who right now is the Raiders secondary coach. Brian Stark was with the Denver Broncos from 2012 to 2024. That's the Raiders assistant general manager. So you got a coaching connection and a front office connection. Also, 2 interceptions every year of his career. He's got AFC West experience, which I know Mark Davis really, truly values. Because the Raiders' front is potentially missing Christian Wilkins, I want somebody that I know I can rely on to be a true center fielder. And I do truly believe that Justin Simmons, yes, at 31 years old, can still be that true center fielder because when you look at how this defense is being built, we need a true center fielder. And we need somebody that we can rely on. Now, I'm hoping that, he doesn't hit that 31 age, and he's fallen off a cliff. But I still think Simmons can get it done, and I still think that he can show you that he can get it done at a high level. For that reason, he's the number 1 free agent I would go out and target if I was Pete Carroll and John Spytek. One more time here, my top 10 Las Vegas Raiders free agent targets for the Silver and Black in the month of June. If you want to take a screenshot of this, and if you want to post it on Instagram or on Twitter, I am at Mitchell Renz 365, and please don't be afraid to argue with me. Don't be afraid to share the video as well. The more people we get to watch, the better and better these shows can continue to get. So I'm going to ask you this question. If the Raiders can only sign one NFL free agent, who should it be? Let me know that answer down below in the comment section. For me, the number 1 free agent that the Raiders should go out and get is Justin Simmons because it fills the biggest team need. It also helps out your secondary, potentially replace the loss of being able to get pressure on your front 4 with Christian Wilkins. But Justin Simmons, Julian Blackmon, Jadeveon Clowney, Mike Hilton, there's a lot of different names I'd be really fired up if the Raiders went out and got. Patrick Roche! Bang! From the top, Roche! My man, Patrick flippin' Roche, dude, with his, listen to this, 13th bang of the month. Patrick, sorry so late. I was out of range. Better late than never. Hey, I tell my wife that.
Let's do it.
Yep. I also tell her that. Better late than never. Patrick Roche, dude, you never have to apologize. And I'll say this to anybody that watches this show. I hope that you guys have a lot of stuff going on in your life. Keep you busy. I think when people stay busy, you stay young. So I'm happy that you're staying busy, you're staying young. That just makes I get to keep you around here for a little bit longer. So today's duck rules are this, Mr. Roche. We're doing something a little bit different today. I figured it'd be fun. We are doing a $50 Venmo, which, Patrick, I just saw you sent me a 20. I need 30 more if you're trying to get in, and here's what we're doing. Mega Duck Race. So first place gets the money, which right now, as it stands, Patrick, I'm going to believe that you're going to send it to me. So, Roche, I got you. And then I also saw L.A. Crash Dog. What is up, Gunny? So, as it stands right now, it would be a $50 Venmo. You would go home with $325. Also, because right now we have 13 people in the race, whoever comes in 13th place, you're going to get 13 raffle tickets into our fantasy football raffle. So technically, 12, 11, 10, you guys are getting a hell of a deal because it's $5 super chat to get in. No matter what, you guys are going to get a good deal here. Cap Steve, what if I'm busy being old? I'll tell you this. Anybody I've ever met that's busy being old, they're going to tell you that they're busy being old. Your knees are probably breaking down. You're just going to start complaining about the weather. It's probably all you talk about is the weather. If you're complaining about being old, your number one thing you talk about is weather.
Weather.
Dad, I don't mean that as a shot at you. I just think you're obsessed with the weather. That's what I'm going with. Bridger Rivera, Chugs, suit up, Chugs. You're in.
Oh, my God.
What?
Dude, just the clips from this OKC parade are just...
It's
a bad look.
I mean, and we said it earlier, it's tough to do a parade on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like, really tough to do a parade on a Tuesday in the middle of the week. Like, that's tough to do. I don't care who you are. That's tough to do.
Yeah, and like everybody in the office was like, well, when do you want him to do it, Jeremy? You know, the NBA draft is tomorrow and Thursday, and like, da-da-da. I mean, maybe the flair of it is gone, but I'd rather just wait till Friday.
Richard Black, I got you. I agree with you, but it's also just the NBA calendar. Like, and this is why the NBA calendar sucks. They just don't know how to do it. Because the draft, there's free agency, they just squish everything together. Like, it's why the NBA is not 365 days. Like, I don't care what anybody says.
Some people have said so, but...
No, those people are very wrong. Very, very wrong. Richard Black, I got you in. Philip Boger, I got you in.
I'll tell you this. I don't think you would ever see a Super Bowl parade like that. Even if it was on a Tuesday.
Never.
I don't think you would ever see it like that.
Never. I am trying to remember the worst Super Bowl parades I've ever seen.
I can't think of a single NFL market team that would have a Super Bowl parade that wasn't 7 times what we just saw.
I mean, it was... Do you think there was 10,000 people there?
I don't know.
That's what I mean. I don't know if there... I don't know.
Even the, maybe the Chargers... But then still you have all the fake LA people. I bet you have a ton of Rams fans that would go if the Chargers won. Like just LA influencers that would go out there.
Probably.
Seattle would be crazy. The Jags, I think even the Jags, if they won a Super Bowl, that would be nuts. Like their parade.
I don't know. I mean... I also didn't think the Buccaneers one would be all that crazy. Now, that might just been because it was Tom Brady and he was shellacked.
It was also COVID, so it was like,
oh yeah,
they did the boat one.
Yeah, they did the boat. So, like, I can remember that parade very clearly though because it was on a boat.
That was still 10 times better than what OKC just did.
Yep. Also, Bayou, hooray! Bayou, Big Tuna. What up, Mitch Chugs? Graham Carroll are both great with assembling a defense, so I'm not too worried. The movie Miracle is the Raiders this year. Let's go. Shout out to my LSU champs.
Bayou, any thoughts on there being an asterisk next to this College World Series title?
Stop. Bayou, you got to admit, the Coastal Carolina coach getting thrown out in that game, it's a shame, but I feel more bad for the players of Coastal. I also feel bad for the LSU players as well because it's what people are talking about. And it sucks. I mean, having a head coach being thrown out in the first inning of a game for that, I think is one of the most Bush League things you could see. And if that ump has a job, the NCAA isn't serious about what they're trying to put on the field.
Could you imagine Super Bowl first quarter, they're like, Andy Reid, get out of here.
I think the better comparison, and I think it's a good comparison, I think the better comparison would be like if Andy Reid was thrown out of the game in the AFC Championship game in the first quarter. And not only was he thrown out of the game in the AFC Championship game, he was suspended for the Super Bowl.
Jeremy Cole.
The Coastal coach can't coach the first game next year.
Jeremy Cole, why was he tossed? That's a great question. We're all wondering that. Because
he was arguing balls and strikes, okay? And I get the idea of you probably don't want somebody to argue balls and strikes, and he was warned multiple times. But also, you got to have have a feel for the moment. I don't know.
If you're a ref
you're
or
an ump, you're making that about you.
Yeah, I shouldn't hear about you more than a couple times in the game. Like you know what? I'm not going to say that. I shouldn't hear about you after the game. Because that means you're making the game about yourself.
And again, man, like I've played a lot of baseball games. And I didn't play at that level. I did play a lot of, college baseball. I've had a lot of starts underneath my belt, and you deal with a lot of, bad umpires. Like, it's going to happen. It's part of the game. But also at the exact same time, for you to throw out a coach who, again, he was coach of the year. Like, it was a really, really bad look. Overall, though, I am happy that LSU won. I think that they were the better team. They had two of the top pitchers in the country, both top 10 picks. Can't wait to see what both those guys do at the next level. But I also agree with you that I think that Carroll and Graham are so good at being able to piece together a defense. But I also think that the defense that they pieced together this offseason was predicated on them having a great defensive line, and it was predicated on them having a healthy Christian Wilkins. You're not going to have a healthy Christian Wilkins. I'm not saying he's not going to play. He's going to try to play, but you're going to probably get a 70-80% Christian Wilkins this season.
I wish there was a common sense eye in the sky for every sporting event of, like, somebody calling down and be like, yo, don't go through with this.
I think it's got to be one of those where the ump tosses him, and then he gets a call down and says, I understand what you just did there, but after looking at it, there's no reason to throw him out.
Like, he needs to be, like, you need to tell him he can't leave the dugout or he will be tossed.
Like, it's got to be like almost like hockey where you put, if you got to put him in a penalty box for an inning, I'd rather that be the rule. But the worst part about that rule is if Coastal would have won, the coach would have still been suspended for the second game, for game 3.
Yeah.
Like, that's asinine that an umpire has that much. And here's my problem with, again, I am a baseball guy through and through, but because of that, it's why umpires are going to be out of the game. Because I want the game to be right. Like, I don't give a shit what the call is. Like, there's some people out there that are like, leave the umps in the game, whatever they call, it's what should stand. But then I would say from a football standpoint, that would be like you going, oh, well, even if it was called incomplete, but it was clearly a catch, you're like, nope, it's what the umpires called. We got to stick with it. I think umpires are really going to be out of the game of baseball here soon. And I think it's because how often they have so much power, but yet you can't, like, it's got to be a two-way street. Like, that head coach also deserves respect because he was one of the best head coaches in baseball, where umpires kind of walk around like their shit doesn't stink. I don't know. That's what I gathered. Richard Black, Mitch, did you get my duck race? Yes, Mr. Richard Black. I did. I got you in, and you are very, very in. Let's go to, I believe it's the month of June. How many flags are the refs giving the Las Vegas Raiders this year?
Glad you read that correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that one video for that announcer. Oh, my God, I felt so bad for him.
Just the fact that there was a 30-second silence afterwards was just like...
Well, again, I can't imagine making that mistake, but I also can imagine making that mistake. I mean, I slip up saying things all the time. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you can look it up. But I just think in general, that's a risky one, and that sucks that it happened. I felt bad for the announcer because there's no way he tried to do it. There's no way. But how many flags? I mean, I really, really hope that the Raiders this season are one of the more less penalized teams. I know in years past we've been very heavily penalized, but I'm hoping Pete Carroll keeps this team under reins. And, you heard a few Raiders players last season talk about that they didn't feel like that they were disciplined enough, and maybe AP was trying to be a little bit too buddy-buddy. I think right now you're seeing just a totally different football team that when Pete Carroll walks into a room, he's going to command respect. He doesn't have to act like your best friend like AP did. Pete just gets that, respect. What up, Luther? Raiders winning this year, would it be like miracle? It would be more like if Predator beat Arnold, flew home with all of his skull trophies. I don't get that reference necessarily.
I've seen Alien versus Predator movies.
I have too.
Predator is like the bad guy.
Sure. I get that, but at the same time,
I think he's making a I can't think of the word, an analogy to pillaging just for fun.
Okay. If that's the case, then I salute to you. I would say if the Raiders won the Super Bowl, I think you're crazy not to call it a miracle. I mean, and again, like, all of us are sitting here hopeful Raiders fans, right? You're not a hopeful Raiders fan. If you're watching a video in June, you're a hopeful Raiders fan. I don't give a shit what anybody says. You can act like a troll. You can act like you think this team stinks. If you're watching the Raiders Report on YouTube in June, you're a hopeful Raiders fan. If the Raiders won the Super Bowl, if that's not a miracle, then I don't know if I'd believe in miracles because it would be a miracle to me, man. And I think the Raiders are going to have a good football team. But being a good football team, being a playoff caliber team, then being a Super Bowl contender and winning the Super Bowl, very, very, very different.
Yeah. Also, one thing that I do want to mention that we have not talked about on today's show.
Tybo, real ones, absolutely.
Something we have not discussed.
I was just going to bring it up.
On 3, we both say it.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Aaron Rodgers. It just popped up on my screen, so that's why. You go. You brought it up.
Reports, not even reports, from Aaron Rodgers' mouth.
I don't know if that means anything. We'll see.
Said that he plans on this being his final year in the NFL.
Yep.
First question, why for yes and for no? Do you believe him? Do you believe Aaron Rodgers that this will be his last season? Give me a why for yes, an in for no. And 2, do you think that gives the Steelers any juice to make it further in the playoffs? Do you think it's a bad thing that he's putting more of the attention on him rather than the team? What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers as people get their answers in why for yes and for no?
I would type my N for no because I just don't believe Aaron Rodgers. Like, it has nothing to do with whether or not I think it's his final year or not. Like, I think it makes sense for it to be his final year. I also just don't believe Aaron Rodgers. Like, if Aaron Rodgers told me that, hey, I'm going to wear number 8 this year, I'd have to see it, and it's just because I don't believe anything that comes out of his mouth. I do think this is a good ploy by him to try to get the Steelers to go all in. But at the same time, though, if you're sitting there and you're a Steelers player, okay, and I think the problem with what Rodgers said is if you're a player, to me, like, I want a quarterback that at least wants to be a part of this for the long haul if we get it going. Because if they go out and they win a playoff game, if they win a Super Bowl, I don't think Rodgers is going to hang it up then.
I actually think that's the scenario which he does. I think if they win it,
I think money talks.
I think if he wins it, he goes, all right, I'm going out on top, and he wants the, whole, like...
To me, it's going to come down to his wife. So
his secret wife.
He's recently married, and I'm telling you this because I think every guy would agree with this. If your wife told you to stop, I would hope Aaron Rodgers would listen to his wife. Now, I say that, and our owner didn't listen to his wife, but, it is what it is. I just don't believe anything Aaron Rodgers says.
Yeah, and do you think this helps or hurts the Steelers this season?
I think it helps, and I only say I think it helps because then Rodgers is going to be like, let's go all in. Let's try to do this.
And it gives you a clear vision of the Steelers front office. They're going to be watching all the quarterbacks, which actually goes perfect into our next Super Chat.
Who are the top quarterbacks to watch in college this season? Also happy to see Caden Salter going to
Colorado with Coach Prime. I actually covered him in high school. He was actually Alex's family's neck of the woods. He went to Cedar Hill.
Oh, okay.
Was really good there. Went to the state championship game.
He's the one with super curly hair, right? Or am I thinking of
You're thinking of somebody
else. Who
else.
was the number 2? Who was the kid that was with
You're thinking of Julian.
Julian. I know he was the kid that was
Julian Fleming or something like that, or
no,
Julian Hill.
Julian Fleming is he played at Penn State. He was a wide receiver at Penn State. But he was the kid that was in the picture with Shador, and Shador's like handing the keys.
That's the 5-star that they got.
Okay.
Caden Salter's the guy who played at Liberty.
Oh, okay.
And he actually, it's funny enough, I covered him in high school. Nice kid, but you can tell, like, head in other places type thing. Like, every time I talk to him in high school, really cordial with me, really, really cool, good rapport. You could tell he had his mind on some other things instead of football as well, which at 18 years old, a lot of people do.
Sure.
Originally went to Tennessee, was a 4-star recruit, was set to actually like be in the competition to start there, and during like freshman dorm, like whatever, like them getting in their dorms, him and 2 roommates got caught smoking in the dorms and got immediately kicked off the team. That's why he went to Liberty. And then he's played really well there.
Yeah.
And then now transferred to Colorado. I wonder if he's going to start or the 5-star is going to start, though. I would imagine he would want to start because he got a bag to go to Colorado because a lot of teams wanted him in the transfer portal. I'd imagine he would start maybe the 5-star, sits 1 year, Caden plays, and then tries to go to the NFL. He's a name.
I would say Cade Klubnik from Clemson's
Yes.
got to be a guy. Arch is probably the most obvious number one answer you could go with. I've heard Sam talk a lot about the quarterback from Oklahoma.
John Mateer. He transferred from Washington State. Norris Sellers from South Carolina. Drew Aller
from Penn State's got to be a name. Garrett Nussmeier from LSU.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know if you saw the pictures of the kid from Florida. DJ
Lagway.
Him next to Anthony Richardson. Dude, he was bigger than Richardson.
Dude, DJ Lagway, another guy I've seen him play. I only saw him play once in high school. He's amazing.
I don't like to hate watch. I mean that in my most honest. I don't like to hate watch college football players. There might be one guy that Carson Beck down there in Miami.
Yeah.
He's made millions of dollars, right? Like, I think now it's the difference of before, you didn't like to hate watch kids in college because they weren't making money. When guys are making millions upon millions of dollars, and you've heard the reports and rumors about Carson Beck being a shitty human being, like, they're out there. I don't know.
Taylon Green from Arkansas is another good name. I actually covered him in high school. He played at Louisville.
What about the kid from Arizona State? He actually impressed.
Levitt,
okay.
Sam Levitt. He's good. Dude, how about this, though? Taylon Green got a bag to go to Arkansas, which I can't blame the kid, right?
Yep.
Before that, though, was the starting quarterback at Boise State, would have started last year and made the college football playoffs with Ashton Genty. He instead gets a bag, goes to Arkansas, and is like 8th in the SEC.
I do honestly wonder how often, like, would that kid actually then get scouted? And because, again, if he's the quarterback and Ashton Genty's your running back, I get you might not get as many opportunities, but you're also going to have more eyeballs on you probably.
Yeah, sucky move by him because he was good at Boise State, obviously good enough to where Arkansas wanted to give him the bag and paid for him to transfer to there.
I also get the idea, though, like, I'd want to go try to play in the SEC.
And also, if a team's offering you, if you're a 19-year-old kid and a team's like, hey, we'll give you $500,000 more than what this team's offering you.
Yeah, I get it. And I actually saw a quote from some kid the other day who was, like, talking about being in college football. And I think NIL money, it's a good idea to be able to pay players. I really do truly mean that. But I think what we're starting to see is kids take money over program. And I think it's going to be a story in the long run where, yes, quarterback took X amount of money and he made X amount of money, but he ended up costing himself down the road,
Yeah.
And like Brady even talked about it this offseason where he was like, the Raiders, I look for guys that are built in a program and not just bouncing around and being selfish, taking the money, which I get the idea of taking the money.
And it's kind of a funny thing because UNT, lower level D1 school, right? And they're a team where we had a quarterback, Chandler Rodgers, that was really good.
Also, the kid from Nebraska, I saw Rayola's name be commented down there.
Transferred to Cal.
Yeah.
To get that money. Ended up being a backup there and not playing. And had to transfer back down to another team where if he would have just stayed at UNT, probably be getting even more money to transfer this next year. Like, he played only 1 year at UNT, transferred to Cal, didn't play, then transferred back to, I think, like Southern Miss or like Arkansas Tech or something like that.
Not good. Let's go to Raiderman01 to Jersey Boy Greaser. Oh, that was a good question. I liked it. Just for shits and giggles, if we can talk Aaron Donald into coming back, how much would the Rams want for his rights?
First.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're not throwing out a first-round pick.
I mean, second best defensive lineman behind J.J. Watt of his era.
You also got to consider what Aaron Donald was making before, right? Like, I've seen a lot of Raiders fans get upset about how much they're paying Aaron Donald or how much they're paying Christian Wilkins, $27 million a year. If I'm Aaron Donald and you want to get me out of retirement, you're paying me. I am the highest paid defensive lineman in the NFL. I want Myles Garrett type of money. I want it guaranteed. Like, I'm not saying 4 years, $137 million. I'm saying you're probably going to pay me $42 million. That's all of the Raiders' salary cap. I would want $42 million, and you're going to have to give up a first-round pick to do it. Like
I said, you're talking about the second best player on the defensive line during his era, only behind J.J. Watt. So when getting a guy like that,
yeah, hey,
you're going to have to pay.
Hey, you're going to have to pay. I'm glad that still lives on. Jersey boy, what is Dante Thornton as wide receiver 1 likelihood?
It's likelihood.
I would just say as your wide receiver 1, it's not a knock on Thornton. It's just I'm going to go 1% chance of it happening. And it's because Jakobi Meyers deserves the respect. And Thornton, to me, can be a great deep threat. Can Thornton be the number 1 option maybe years down the road, potentially? You know, one of the things that I was honestly wondering and thinking about this offseason, and I've been kind of like flirting with the idea to make a video, and if I end up making the video, spoiler alert, yeah, don't tell Alex I've been flirting and thinking about it, is, you know, could the Raiders potentially be a little bit more on the fence of giving Jakobi Meyers an extension because of how impressed they've been by Dante Thornton Jr., how impressed they've been this offseason by Trey Tucker, how impressed they've been by, you know, Jack Besh, where if you're the Raiders, you go, yeah, I get what Jakobi Meyers is, but if we're this confident in Thornton and Trey Tucker to take that next step and they believe in Jack Besh, you know, Besh can play in the slot. You keep Thornton and Tucker on the outside. You let Tommy Mellott also be a slot receiver. I do wonder if, like, that's a potential plan that they have. Now, again, if it was up to me, if you traded for Geno Smith, let's make sure that we have the best receiver that we possibly have, and I think Jakobi is better than those guys that I just mentioned. But can Thornton turn into a wide receiver 1? If you would have asked me this back when the Raiders drafted him, I probably would have said no. But I actually talked to Dante Thornton Jr.'s agent today, and it was just, you know, like, hey, man, like, how's it going? Like, give me the lows, like, give me the ins and outs. And even talking to him, hearing the different tone in his voice of just confidence, I think is the best way to put it, of where he thinks Dante is now compared to where Dante was back in, you know, May, lot different. I do think that Dante Thornton Jr. can be a wide receiver 1, and I would view him as a wide receiver 1, very similar to Martavis Bryant, and that was a name that, you know, we've thrown out on this show multiple times. We threw out the Martavis Bryant comp even before I know Max kind of gave Martavis Bryant comp to him. Maybe Max watched the show, but, like, to me, like, that's the type of player that I think Thornton can be. He can be a type of player of a Martavis Bryant, and the next name I'm going to throw out there is a freak athlete that is going to get shadowed by what he did off the field. But let's not forget how unbelievably gifted Josh Gordon was when he was first coming out from Cleveland, of just an athletic freak that put it all on the field and put it together quickly. I think if Thornton can really put some extra weight on because he's long and he's lanky, again, you can't teach how athletic he is. And if he's putting things together the way that it's being reported, I do think Dante Thornton Jr. can be a wide receiver 1. All right, let's get this duck race going here. It's the final call. Patrick Roche, I saw that you just got in, and you, sir, are in. Rustin Long also is getting in. So right now, as it stands, it is a $50 Venmo. You would go home with 400 doll hairs here on today's show. And because we have 16 people in the race, if you come in 16th place, you get 16 tickets into the Raiders Report Fantasy Football raffle.
So who just got in?
Rustin Long. I just put his name in the sheet.
Okay.
So if you come in 15th, you get 15 tickets. 14th, 14 tickets. 13th, 13 tickets. If I have to count all the way down, I'm going to feel like King Shab before a Raiders Report show. But I think you guys get the gist. I think you get the gist.
Everybody in?
What up, Patrick Roche? What up, Night Devil? Appreciate all of y'all tuning in today. So we got
octopuses.
A lot of octopuses.
Octopussy.
Though, did you know if there's multiple octopuses, it's called an octopi?
Oh.
I think. That's my minimum Animal Planet knowledge. Though I was a big Animal Planet fan. Still am. You ready?
I'm ready.
Final call to get in. Last refresh. If you want a chance to win some money, $50 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 36pi. 36pi. I said that because Captain Steve put octopi. I think it is. Last refresh. Nobody else is in. 3, 2, 1. All right, this is interesting. I was really curious
Now,
to see if we'd see
I
any
do
ink
wonder,
squirting.
Is it the first tentacle to
Oh,
pass, or is it their head?
That's true.
Because I can't tell between Night Devil and who is that? Kelly.
Richard
Now
Kelly.
Kelly's ahead, but
No, I feel like Richard's a little bit smaller, but then again, I'm not really sure. It just looks like all of them are really happy to be here. Though Patrick Roche looks like he's got teeth.
Charles G looks like he's walking on the seafloor.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what Charles G's doing. Although that's actually Chalris. Chalris G. Rustin Long is just hanging out in the back. Richard Engel, LA Crash Dog. Uh-oh, Mark Call is really about to make a push here. Come on, Mark. Come on, Mark. Mark Call making a push for $400 all the way from the back. And it is Mark Call. So let's look here.
He's just disgracing that finish line right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of ink. That originally was just a white line. Now it's checkered.
Bogart made me ink.
All right, so worst place was second. Charles, I'm sorry that you came in second place. You're only going to get 2 raffle entries. Philip gets 3. Richard gets 4. Fabian gets 5. The person who comes in last place, Rustin Long. So let's, if you could, can you just keep that up for me?
Yes.
And then that way I can add, or actually, I'll just take a screen. We'll just take a screenshot. We'll put it in later. Yeah, I was going to say that's going to take me too long. I got it. I got it. I'll just take a screenshot and I'll implement it after. So reminder to all y'all, whatever place you came in, is how many tickets you are going to get into the Raiders Report Fantasy Football Raffle. To Mark Call, who I feel like has been racing a lot more recently. Mark won on May 16th, and I believe that was his first win. Mark, since you are watching right now, if you could please confirm that you just received $400, that would be much, much appreciated, Mark. Mark, can you please confirm that you just received $400? Sean Irish. I'm literally 0 for 70. I'll see you back on Thursday.
Until you're not.
I'll see you back on Friday. I mean, I get it. I can get it. It would be very, very frustrating. Mark, I hope that you can confirm that you just won. Friendly reminder, the next time that I'm going to be live is going to be Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, and then Friday, Raiders Madden live stream. It's going to be Week 12 game. Back-to-back losses. Can we get back in the win column? I sure hope so. I don't know if Mark calls here, but I know this. I unfortunately do got to get out of here. So from me, from Jeremy Chuggs, hope you guys all have a great, great rest of your day. And I'll see you guys for another video tomorrow. And I'll be live again on Thursday.